Hello, and welcome to the Leaders in Supply Chain and Logistics podcast. I'm your host, Fei Yu, and I'm the Managing Director for Alcott Global. Our mission is to connect the supply chain ecosystem globally by bringing forward some of the most interesting leaders in the industry. Today's guest is Manuel Wildberger, Vice President of Operations Europe, Taste and Wellbeing at Givaudan. Who is Givaudan? It's a global leader in flavors and fragrances manufacturing with 7.4 billion Swiss francs in sales and operations in over 100 locations worldwide. Manuel leads Givaudan's European supply network. That includes 7 factories across 5 countries, 1,800 people, driving operation excellence for business of over 800 million Swiss francs. With previous leadership roles at Unilever, Lindt & Springs, and Ghirardelli Chocolate, Manuel brings deep expertise in supply chain strategy, manufacturing, and continuous improvement. He excels at managing complex global operations through the lenses of digitalization, sustainability, and resilience. Manuel has a passion for challenging the status quo and bringing fresh ideas to our daily life, daily work as well. He's devoted to securing the future of the company by attracting and growing talents. In his free time, Manuel likes to spend time with his family and to enjoy the beautiful outdoors of Switzerland on a bike, on skis, or hiking. Manuel, great to have you with us today.
Thank you very much, Faye, and thanks for the kind introduction.
Sure, I have tons of questions. So, you ready?
Yes.
All right. So, I think that we like to start with the most common question. Who are you, right? Who is Givaudan? Many people might not realize the full scale of the company. And actually, you are the supplier behind the big brand. Could you please give us a quick snapshot of the company and how you're shaping the food, beverage, and well-being industries around the world?
Yes, indeed. Givaudan is not a name that you find on the shelves, right? But we are in many, many products. So the chances that you have been in contact with one of our products today is very high. So, for example, if you take a shower, wash your hair, brush your teeth, for breakfast cereal or some jam and bread, there's a very, very good chance that you have been in contact and have consumed one of our beautiful products. So indeed, we are the market leader in the fragrance and flavors world. We are about 25% of the formal market. And therefore, we are in contact with almost all the big FMCG companies. So we supply the big names, but we also supply the small names. We also grow in emerging markets and play with the small players and the emerging players in these interesting markets. So we are very close to our customers always, and we are helping them also to develop the next generation of their products. So we have a very big R&D departments, flavor creations, as well as fragrance creations. And with these departments and the developments we do there, we help our customers to look into the future, design new products, helping them to create the tastes of the futures and the smells of the futures.
So when it comes to the touch and smell, right? Oftentimes we'll actually get into your product that is blended in the end product.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So we are responsible for the smell of most of the washing detergents or shampoos or body lotions, as well as the taste of many, many beverages or snacks or any food ingredients, any packaged food.
Interesting. I also read that Givaudan just posted right on the news with 7.4 billion Swiss francs in sales, with strong double-digit growth. That's a star, big star, given that the current situation of the world economy. What would you say has been the key driver behind this momentum on the operation side?
That's correct. So we have actually, recently grown faster than the market, right? And that's really testimony to our capabilities, not only in the creation of the flavors and the fragrances, but also in the execution. So when we think about, we have thousands of raw materials that go into thousands of unique formulas. I take just the example of strawberry flavor comes in hundreds of different variants, and each one is bespoke to a single customer, a single product. So the strawberry flavor of a yogurt is not the same than the strawberry flavor of, let's say, a protein drink, or another type of food. And we are able to get these raw materials sourced at the right time, at the right quantities, at the right quality, then transform them into the flavors, and being able to really, on a short-term notice, to turn around and deliver that to the customers in the Givaudan quality and the right quantities. So I think that is one of the aspects where supply chain and procurement has helped to being so successful as a company.
How would you manage some hiccups, right, if anything goes wrong in the operation on the
Yeah, so
side? Yeah.
good question. I mean, many things often go wrong, but you obviously try to solve the problem so that the customer is not having an impact. But for example, one of the most predominant issues is that we are not able to find a specific raw material. So we have the formula calls for a specific raw material, and then all of a sudden, because of crop issues, because of supply issues, because sometimes happens that the vendor went bankrupt, we have a shortage. And that's where our flavorists are coming into play. We have a group that's called technical flavorists. And together with the supply chain, we look for other ways to source this raw material, or to replace this specific raw material with an equal raw material with the same quality and the same functionality. And that is an effort that has to be done in a matter of hours and days. And I think there we are really, really agile to turn on a dime and really find the right solution so that the customer can be served without disruption.
Interesting. As the end customers, right? I do have my preferred fragrance or flavor. What are your top three sold?
Top three sold. Unfortunately, I cannot give you the names because that's
Got
a
it.
secret.
Yeah, got it.
But I would say among the top categories is snacks. So we do a lot of potato chips dustings. So this is, let's say, if you have a paprika potato chip, then the paprika on the potato together with some other flavoring ingredients can be from us. I mean, we have also some other competitors that deliver that.
Yeah.
Another very big category is beverage, so carbonated soft drinks.
Yeah.
So a lot of our goods go into carbonated soft drinks.
Yeah.
And then we have another category that is sweet goods. So anything that has to do with chocolate, with any sweets, hard candy, soft candy, those are typically flavored, and that's also where our products go in. So that's on the taste and well-being. On the flavor side, on the fragrance side, it's typically the big items are washing detergent and personal hygiene, shampoos and skincare. Yeah.
I go to the supermarket a lot to buy drinks, right? And then chips for my son. So I see that almost every week you have new taste coming out, right? So in your industry, you could feel the customer needs are changing so fast. How do you manage the balance between the quality, innovation, agility, and very high customization, all at scale?
Yeah, so that's indeed an interesting and very exciting challenge. So we see our customers, they have their icons, right? But then they have a lot of in and outs and promotions and special, let's say, Christmas item, spring item, barbecue season item, etc. We work very closely with the customers. So for our big customers, we are deeply integrated into the planning. So with one of our biggest customers, we have even a dedicated planning team that works with their supply team almost on a daily basis to look at stock levels, and we're actually managing even their stock levels, right? So and managing also their demand in a way that we look at the forecasts and have our historical forecasts and then advise them in how much they should build in terms of stocks and what they could expect, what they're probably going to sell of this and that promotion. So I think the integrated business planning is one of the critical items in supply chain. And anyways, the planning is one of the critical functions at Givaudan that we are successful with our customers. The more we know, because we are a little bit at the end of the bullwhip, if you want, right? So the consumers like you, Fei, they decide on the point to buy a bag of chips or not. And until we feel that demand swings, depending on preference of the customers, it's taking some time along the end-to-end supply chain. But therefore, the visibility into even point of sale data and into the customer planning is very, very important.
Mm-hmm. How do you do that to collaborate with clients who are actually selling, for example, these potato chips in the supermarket?
So we built a really close connection, and typically the connection between Givaudan and customers is from Givaudan sales side and on the customer from a procurement side, right? So, but that's usually quite high level. They talk about yearly volumes, they talk about new projects, etc. Once we get a win, once we have a product won, then we need to deeply engage supply chain to supply chain, because then the experts need to talk to each other. And very typically, the procurement people are concerned about PPVs and about stock levels. They get pressure from the CFO about stock levels, whereas the supply chain people are more concerned about the daily efficiency in the supply chain. So, for example, if they receive 2 half pallets in 1 month, that's not good, right? So it's better to receive 1 pallet, have 1 pallet space occupied, and that's the most efficient way to do it. So when we have the chance, and we try to achieve that in most of the cases, to talk supply chain to supply chain, then things start to click. Then we get efficiency out of the system, and then we get also a much better customer service and a much better satisfaction on both sides, on our side and on the customer side.
Yeah, complex one. So challenging role for your planning director, right? So now, because you're also managing the manufacturing, right? I'm very curious to know if we compare the Givaudan manufacturing and supply chain to the traditional manufacturing sector, what makes your supply chain especially complex?
So we are, compared to normal food manufacturing, we are quite different in a way that each product is unique, and we are produced on order. So we don't produce on stock, or we have very, very few items that we produce on stock. Mostly it's on order, and it's very individual. So every recipe is a little bit different. So there's recipes that call for 5 types of raw materials, and there's recipes that call for 40 or 50 types of different raw materials. And then we have the process itself is actually quite simple. So it's basically mixing of materials either in liquid form or in powder form. And then we have also some drying, but let's say the most predominant processes are mixing of materials. What is very difficult, as I said before, is to getting all these raw materials at the right quantity and the right quality into the factory at that specific day when we want to produce. And that therefore the actual planning, purchasing is the key elements of our supply chain. The manufacturing itself is relatively easy. Once you get the raw materials, we just mix them. I mean, there's a couple of things that are special, such as some of the materials are very highly concentrated, so you have to be a little bit careful when handling them. But really, the inbound, the many-to-many aspect of our industry is what makes supply chain and especially planning so important for us.
So it's really precise, right? The quantity is precise.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we have also what makes it unique. We can produce in quantity. We call it from 10 grams to 10 tons.
Wow.
So a customer can actually require a sample, which is a few grams, and it's still at the right levels of each raw material. So you can imagine, so one raw material might be a tenth of a gram, a drop, with a pipette into the product. And we produce also at 10 tons, or even more tons. So we have really a huge flexibility with the order size.
Mm. What helps you to develop into a precise manufacturing, precise planning? Which system do you use? Which organizations do you build?
So we have a SAP, so we work with SAP, and we have also a manufacturing execution system. And what helps is that we have a single instance across all of Givaudan. So all the factories are running on the same system. So if you change a formula in one factory, it will automatically be changed in all the factories. So we have guaranteed that all the formulas for a specific item are produced in the same fashion and with the same quality and the same quantities of the raw materials. So that's definitely a huge advantage also in terms of BCP. So for example, if you have a capacity crunch in one of the factories, we can very quickly shift to another factory. Obviously, we need to bring the raw materials to the other factory, but within Europe, that's not too difficult, and produce the same item with the same precision and the same quality in any of the factories that have the same capabilities.
That's discipline, right? So it sounds like
Mhm.
common sense, but so we talk to many clients, they're struggling with that, right? With the common sense. So well done. Good. I would have the next question about the risk, right? So read that double digit growth. That's impressive, right? Then what's happening now is it's also a big challenge. How do you manage this risk, right? Like geopolitical risk, regulation, raw material shortage. That's a big one, right? How do you future-proof the Givaudan supply chain to stay ahead of this risk?
That's indeed, you always think that this year is hard and next year will be better. But what we know is that the requirements are increasing and the stress is increasing and it's never ending. Basically, we have to be ready for the unknown. We have to have a very good business continuity plan in place. And that starts with the raw materials. So on the raw material side, we have to, and we are working very closely with the flavor creators to make sure that we are managing risk out of the formula. So that's where it starts, right? If a flavorist chooses a raw material that is maybe hard to source or is very dependent on some crops and can be influenced, let's say, by droughts or by climate change, etc., other supply chain disruptions, we're trying to get that out. We're trying to remove that risk because it's not good for us and it's not good for the customer, right? And then we are working also on a lot of dual sourcing of the raw materials, because if one vendor has some problems, you still want to have the capabilities to go to a different vendor and source it from there. But also the dual sourcing in terms of supply, in terms of manufacturing is very important. So we are working very hard on bringing even more standards into the manufacturing so that we can very easily transfer some products from one factory to the next factory, even from one region to the next region. And that's also one of our strategic pushes, is to have in the region for the region manufacturing. We've seen that trade barriers go up, tariffs are increasing between regions, and especially for food stuff, there's more and more regulation coming about different ingredients not allowed here, allowed there. So we need to have this in the region for the region manufacturing capabilities, and have within a region even a business continuity plan. So this is one of our main pushes for this strategic cycle, and we'll also go into the next strategic cycles to have this business continuity always guaranteed, so that we can supply our customers always with the right quality at the right time.
Impressive. Now we zoom in to Europe. That's your region. So with the 7 plant, right? I get it correctly. 7 plant, 1,800 people. Share with us your challenges.
The challenge is, I would say, I will start with the people side, right? Manufacturing, unfortunately, has become a little bit less attractive for, let's say, young people to go into, to see a career in manufacturing, supply chain. Maybe less supply chain, but more manufacturing is seen as a little bit less desirable compared to, let's say, service industry, IT, etc., etc. So there we are working on making it attractive, and also explain to people that, okay, if you start in manufacturing, you don't have to stay in manufacturing. It's maybe a good start for a successful career somewhere else. And we have many different paths to advance in Givaudan, and you can also go from one function to the next function, do horizontal moves as well as vertical moves. And with that, we are trying to be more attractive as an employer in the manufacture, especially in the manufacturing space. We see that in Europe, it is more and more difficult to find engaged, motivated people in the manufacturing.
Yeah.
So that's one aspect, is on the people side. Then the other challenge is to keep up with the growth, right? And with the swings. So we see sometimes in a month, all of a sudden we see a 20% increase. And then the next month it goes back to zero. So there we need to just be more prepared in the planning, have more visibility forward, and maybe work also with some stocks with our customers to see if they can accept some stock building, and go a little bit away from the making to order to more into stocks, and take some strategic stocks of materials, and also have maybe some finished good stocks. And then the third challenge is always the procurement of the raw materials, and we see it's becoming more and more difficult to procure the raw materials at the right quality and at the right reliability. And the quality requirements of the customers, but also the regulatory requirements, they have increased a lot over the past years. And it's for the good reasons, right? It's for food safety reasons. It's for the reasons that the people want to have a constant quality in their finished goods. But at the same time, we have gone more into natural ingredients. And unfortunately, today's analytical methods are very precise. They can find any deviation analytically from one raw material to the next raw material, or from a raw material delivered today to a raw material delivered in the next month. And that makes it very important that we have a super tight quality system, and we are in close collaboration with our customers, and very clear expectations and standards about what is expected and how to meet these expectations, because we don't want any surprise. We don't want to deliver something and then the customer finds something that they don't like and we didn't know about it. So that's a little bit the challenge that we work with our customers on this quality and raw material and finished goods quality requirements.
And then people always say that European market is more complex, right? And on top of what you just mentioned, I think what you mentioned is probably quite common also in other regions. And so on top of that, you have the complexity in the European market, right? So share with us how complex is your European operation footprint, and what makes it unique compared to other regions.
In Givaudan, for us, the uniqueness in Europe is that we have the heritage is here in Europe. I mean, Givaudan has 130 years of heritage for food ingredients manufacturing here in Dübendorf, actually, where I sit, close to Kemptal. And with that, we have still some legacy processes, some legacy factories that produce for the entire world. So we are not only with our network serving the European customers, but basically the worldwide customers. So we ship to the US, to LATAM, to Asia Pacific. And with that, we have to take into consideration all regulations, all import regulations, but also food safety regulations, you name it. You know, if you ship something, then the label has to be absolutely correct. And with that, we have developed together with SAP a system where we can say, okay, this product goes to let's say Saudi Arabia, and we need to check all the regulations that this product can be safely produced so that it can be consumed in Saudi Arabia, but also shipped to Saudi Arabia with all the requirements of the import declarations and the label declarations in Arabic, obviously. So this is highly automated at Givaudan. So we have mastered that so that we can always guarantee that if we ship something, it's safe to consume, obviously, but it's also according to all the standards and regulations in all the countries.
Mm.
And since I think we ship to 150 countries out here from Europe. So this is all in the system, and it's all tightly regulated, but very successfully done.
Mm. So you're not fully local for local, right? So I think I see that some organizations are feeling like, right, with today's geopolitical risk, it actually makes sense to do it local for local. In your view, what's the most effective operation model to drive the performance nowadays? It's local for local, right? Or hybrid centralized, right? Or we call it centralized, decentralized. So what is the model?
I think it's a hybrid, if you ask me, and it probably depends on the industry. So for our industry, flavors and fragrances, we just have some very unique ingredients that it's almost impossible to produce them locally because the process is very unique. The raw materials are very unique. I mean, most raw materials, they at one point they go through China for one processing step. So it's a very globalized supply chain in the ingredients world that is probably almost impossible now to go fully local for local. Where we're trying to be local is at the step of the mixing, right? So when we do the mixes and the delivery to the customers, we want to be as close as possible to the customers, also for lead time reasons. But when it comes to the sourcing, it's global, right? And it will remain global for a long period of time because we're just not able to produce these ingredients in all the different countries or even regions.
Yeah. Okay. With that, right? So that I think that it was another topic about, right, many leaders are talking about in addition to how do you set up the organization, right? Another one is about AI and automation. Is that a buzz for Givaudan? Or what have you done, or what are you doing to adapt digitalization, AI, automation to bring real value in your operation?
I would say we are probably not the leading company, but we have definitely stepped or put our toes into the water of AI. We have actually now for about half a year or even more longer, we have our own ChatGPT where we can actually use our internal data and are safe, right? So nothing is going out. So I'm using that actually quite often, just to summarize emails and do that kind of stuff. In terms of AI, I think the most interesting use cases in AI are really in the creation of flavors and fragrances. So there we have already done quite some good developments in terms of using AI to help us to guide the flavorists or the fragrance perfumist into the right direction when they get the brief, right? So they get the brief from a customer about the new product, and sometimes the customers are not very specific about it, so it's quite hard to figure out, okay, what does the customer really exactly want? And then with AI, you're just gonna get that first step of, okay, this could be an idea, this could be something that the customer might need for this specific new development, etc. Also using the intelligence of everything that's out there in terms of consumer preference, trends, etc. So there we have seen some good developments in AI. I personally still think AI can do a lot for us, but HI, human intelligence, is still hugely important for running a supply chain. You cannot underestimate the human factor when we do decisions, and especially when we engage with the customer. It's very important that we do that in a very empathic way, and that there's a person behind it. I think that's still a little bit our philosophy, I would say.
Yeah, operation is still very much rely on human, right? Still. Yeah. I will have last question for you. Speaking of human and leadership, as you look to the next generation, what critical skills and mindset do you define successful supply chain leaders over the next decades?
I think the trend is already here that a lot of companies are moving to a matrix structure, and I think the influencing skills in that respect are super important. So if somebody wants to have a career, the influencing skills is very high up on my radar. So they have to be able to, without direct influence of, let's say, some reports they have, to manage the sometimes politics of a company, and sometimes politics is heavy for reason or for good reason or bad reason, and to get people on their side, right? To get people engaged in their projects, in their daily work, to get them on the side. So I think the influencing skills are super important. Then also one thing that I always tell people, that people leadership early in the career is super important. I've experienced that myself, and it's something that cannot be taken away and cannot be taken lightly, because it's different to manage a project with some professionals than actually managing some, let's say, blue collar workers or warehouse employees in a factory. I would still say that this is a very important skill to have. Horizontal moves also. I mean, you see a lot of people entering the workforce and they just think vertically, right? They say, okay, a customer care representative, I want to become a customer care manager, then a customer care leader, then the supply chain manager, etc. I think it's more important to broaden your skills nowadays, because functions change, functions become obsolete through AI or through automation. So you have to be able to maneuver between functions and to be more broad than an expert. I mean, experts are still needed, but I think for the leadership careers, the broader you are, the more you understand the complexity of the system and the complexity of the company, and that can only be an advantage to your career.
So for our community, for our audience, the advice would be get yourself exposed in leadership roles early in the career and train and polish your influencing skill and try to be as broad as possible. Try different roles in an organization or outside of the organization and to get yourself ready to be a real leader.
That's correct. Yeah, that's well summarized.
Okay. Super. Thank you so much, Manuel, for spending time with us to inspire our audience. And it's also very special to have a Swiss leaders in supply chain, and we don't have many today. Thank you for your time, Manuel.
Thank you, Fei. Pleasure was on my side. Thank you very much.
Once again, this is Fei. Thanks for listening to the Leaders in Supply Chain and Logistics podcast. Enjoy the episode? Then visit outcodeglobal.com for show notes and more. Don't forget to subscribe for updates and new episodes. If you're on iTunes, Spotify, or Amazon Music, a quick 5-star review helps us a lot. Plus, share this with anyone who'd love it. Follow us on LinkedIn for exclusive content. And if you have guest or topic ideas, drop us a message. Contact us if you're looking for top executives to transform your supply chain or logistics. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time.